Hi, thank you all for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like she said, I'm a registered dietitian. I work at St. Tammany Hospital in the Diabetes Education Department. And so what I do with people is just basically help them develop healthy habits regarding their diabetes, but it also branches out more than just that and their overall wellness. So I'm happy to be here today to share some tips with you. I will also say that I am a mom of 4, and so this time of year is very stressful in a sense of preparing and making sure that they have healthy options available to them when they come home and they're starving, or when they come home and they need something to eat real quick, or we're transitioning from school to sporting events. But I think it's really important that we set a base on how we're eating and we're being good influences on them. Today, I did kind of talk a little bit specifically more with the kids in their lunch boxes, but I'm happy to adjust to parents and their lunches as well. Just if that's something that you find more of an interest, I am happy to certainly to answer your questions or to help you in any way. Okay. All right, we'll get started on the PowerPoint. I'll ask you real quick so I can kind of see what direction to take on the conversation. Do most of you have children in the school years that are looking for lunch boxes, or are we mostly gearing this towards adults?
I need both.
Both?
I need both.
All right, so I'll do both just because how could I not when I have an audience to hear me? I could talk all day about eating well and being healthy. I'll go through some of the kid stuff and then I'll throw some adult stuff in there as well, just so you can get an idea of where I'm going with this. Lunch boxes to me are really important because it is, even though it's only one meal a day, it is setting a standard, one, for kids, because we are making that meal for them. So they're kind of seeing what it should look like, and because we're doing it, they're saying, all right, well, if my mom made it, or if dad made it, or grandma made it, it must be healthy if they're trying to give it to me and make me healthy. So to me, lunch boxes are very, very important. The first thing that we're going to talk about is, doing what's best for you. We are in a world right now where there's Pinterest, there's photos, there's other available options that show you kind of possibly stressing you out on how your lunchbox should look. And if you're not careful, you'll get so caught up in that you are kind of bending to fitting yourself in a box that doesn't work for you. So do what is best for you. I laughed because that spawned this thought of doing this was there were some pictures on one of my children's school page of all of them eating lunch. And of course, you're kind of looking and comparing what your lunchbox looks like compared to theirs. Are they eating junk? Are they eating healthy stuff? How did your kid evaluate the situation? So it was interesting to see 15 other kids, what they were eating in their lunchboxes. And it really made me say, this is a conversation that needs to happen. But you'll see completely different spans of lunchboxes, ones that are perfectly cut out and beautiful, and then you'll get some that are just kind of the bag lunch. So the most important thing is doing what is working best for you. So look at these pictures right here. This overwhelms me. Does this overwhelm you?
Yeah.
Just the thought of cutting out all of these and making it look perfect and very cartoon-like. Some families love this. Some families have plenty of time to make this happen. Some kids look forward to this. If this does not work for you, do not do this. This does not have to be what school lunches look like or your personal lunches that you take to school. Just please don't feel pressured to look like this just because we live in a world that provides this as an option. This may be a little bit more your style. You might do a bag lunch or throw some things in a bag together, or you might do the bento boxes. These are called bento boxes over here, and they sell them everywhere right now, and they're really easy just to kind of compartmentalize everything and open it in your kids. It's kind of presented in a positive way, and you can fill those up, and we'll talk about that. I'm not going to go into too much of recipes or putting this in your lunchbox, putting that in your lunchbox, because that is so available right now. You could do a quick Google search and find page after page of recipes for healthy lunchboxes. I just want to prove to you that you do what is best for you and figure out what works for your schedule and what you need to adjust based off of the things that we talk about on these next few slides. So whether it's a bag lunch, a beautiful character lunch, or just kind of these boxes where things are thrown in, do what is working best for you. All right, so a couple of problem areas. Again, I am a mom. I get this. I'm also a working mom, so I get what it's like to bring your lunch to work and to not have time for yourself. A couple of problem areas, first and foremost for the kids' lunch boxes, is the parents' time. We don't have a lot of time to prepare these gourmet, perfectly healthy lunches, and sometimes that can be defeating to people because they think, if I don't have time to do something fancy, I'm not going to do anything. So to me, when it becomes a priority and you're deciding that it's important, you're planning ahead, these are things that may help you prepare a healthier lunch. The biggest thing on a kid's lunch that I see, because I go in the cafeteria a lot too to kind of see how the kids are doing in there, the biggest thing that I notice is that kids do not have a lot of time for lunch. 20, 30 minutes max for some schools. And so if you're doing a lot of, if your lunch boxes are full of things that take a lot of individual time, for example, an apple, a whole apple takes time to eat the apple as opposed to apple slices. If your child is making their own, they have to mix things, or they have to, sometimes we do like the homemade Lunchables where we'll do, Triscuits, cheese, and some deli meat. If they're having to put that all together, sometimes that takes more time for them on a very short time frame schedule. So just remember, if it's taken them a long time to eat something at home and they're having to do it on a short amount of time at school, they may not eat those items. They may pass on something that's healthy because it's taken too long for them to get it together. Another thing sometimes is if they have to pull, little kids can't pull their little items open. Their cheeses sometimes they have a hard time with. So just remember that they're on a tighter schedule on the school clock as opposed to when they're at home. What I teach my kids, and sometimes when they were littler, I had to say, almost like label, eat this first. I put little stickers that say, eat me first, like if it was a sandwich or something that was going to be more filling for them, as opposed to something that would that was in their lunchbox to kind of make them happy, but it wasn't necessarily filling foods. So you might prioritize them. Tell them, have a conversation with them and say, make sure you eat this first because it makes your brain work. It gives your belly good energy. Just try to wait, and if you don't have time, don't eat these two things, but just make sure that you're getting the priority foods first. And that goes the same for adults as well. If you're putting too much in their lunchbox, I guarantee that they're going to pick their favorite stuff and they're not going to eat all the other healthy options because they don't have time and because they're kids and that's what they do. Same thing goes for adults. If we're kind of overwhelmed with our lunch and we only have a 30-minute lunch break, we're going to pick through real quick and possibly not make the healthiest choices because we are in a hurry. Just remember that. Supplies, man, they've come a long way from when we were bringing sack lunches to school. They have boxes, they have thermos that keep things cold or hot. If you wanted to serve something that you normally would have to warm, they have options now to keep those warm for you if you're in a hurry, or especially if you're sending a kid's lunch. They have the portion controlled ones. I just bought a bunch of these this week just because everybody needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and throwing it all together sometimes is overwhelming. But taking the little individual portion, that maybe they need just a small serving of ranch, maybe they need just a little bit of cheese, and having those little individual ones kind of make it fun for them to see, but also helps to keep it in a smaller portion as to something that you would have from home. And then the third problem that I see is just not knowing. Sometimes they don't know what to put in their lunch boxes. And that's probably why a lot of you are here today, is because we want to figure out what should you put. So now that I'm going to go through that with you and some ideas and help to cover different topics. After the knowledge is there, then it's a matter of just finding the time, finding the right supplies, and making it happen. Any questions so far?
Nope. Sounds good.
All right, rocking and rolling. Okay, so this is a Lunchbox basic. So I did this with kids in mind, but you certainly can relate it to what I'm talking about with you. So a couple of things that you want to always look for when you're eating is that you have different nutrients that provide different meanings and functions in your life. So protein is what keeps you full. So if you have a lunch or a breakfast or a meal that's full of just carbohydrates, you're not going to feel full and satisfied. So let's take a kid's lunch, for example. If you send them with just ramen noodles, they're not going to feel full. They might feel full the first 20 minutes, and then come 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, their bellies are rolling, they're hungry, they're coming home from school starving because they don't have that satisfying protein in there. If you do something like for your breakfast, it's very, very common that I hear people do cereal alone for breakfast. If you choose cereal, that's fine, but you want to make sure that you're having some sort of protein with it, and that way it makes you feel full. It takes longer to digest, and that way you are not feeling hungry just an hour after you've eaten. So a couple of protein options to throw in there that are still healthy and available and kind of thinking outside the normal box. Deli meat, eggs, chicken salad, yogurt. The yogurts now have a lot of protein in them. They really are making a comeback with some of these Greek yogurts that have more protein than chicken. So those are options for kids as well. Temperature controlled, obviously. Rotisserie chicken, cottage cheese, pimento and cheese. This one makes me laugh because that's one of my kids' favorites. She loves to get pimento and cheese, and that is actually a decent protein for a kid. They have healthier chicken nuggets as opposed to the regular fried ones. They have healthier pepperoni options, and I know that's a lot of times a kid favorite. Meatballs, if you took meatballs and kept them in the temperature safe containers that we talked about earlier, that's a meal for them. That could work. Second thing you want to make sure that's in every meal and every lunchbox is some sort of healthy carbohydrate. That's what's going to give them energy. That's going to wake their brains up, kind of help them get through the day. So again, if it's just protein, they may feel full, but they may feel kind of tired when it comes to the second part of the day. So healthy carbohydrates could be whole grains like bread, noodles, beans. A lot of kids enjoy the wraps, kind of doing those pinwheel type things, or a wrap. Adults enjoy those as well. Looking for whole grain crackers, pita. Hummus could be your carbohydrate. That's actually a really clean carbohydrate for a lot of kids. They enjoy, that's quick and easy to eat. And don't be afraid to add fat. This is one of our, we're in a world really that kind of lives in a fat-free zone. And a lot of times people are afraid to add fat because they think that's dangerous for them, or they think it's going to make them gain weight. And that's really not the case. You want to make sure that you're adding healthy fats to every single meal, whether it's for you or for the child. So some kid-friendly ones would be avocado or guacamole. You'd be surprised how many kids actually like that, especially if they can dip something in it and kind of making it a side. The nuts, if those are safe at school, it just depends. Not every school member can bring nuts to school due to allergies, but if it is an option, certainly makes a healthy fat for these kids. Even thinking outside of the normal nuts like peanuts and almonds, but pistachios or Brazil nuts or walnuts or pecans, any of those that kids might enjoy eating and that are safe to send to school. I know a lot of food allergies affect that, so you want to make sure that it's clear first before you can do that. Even doing cheese or olives, it could be even dressing. So if your kids love baby carrots and they want to dip it in ranch, that's okay. They're eating carrots. It's important. If they're wanting broccoli, but they need a little dip to go with it, don't overstress them eating too many calories from a fat. Let them eat the vegetable the way that they enjoy it. Usually you find that kids who enjoy eating fruits or vegetables do better if it has a little bit of something, because it's getting them to eat it. It's not a no-no food. It becomes something like, okay, I like it. So please, if they enjoy having a little bit of a dip with it, they'll absolutely fine to do it. Now, when you think about a lunchbox, I do try to add always a fruit or a vegetable, and or just depending on your child and what they like, and especially if adults. If you like vegetables, please go for it. This is certainly a nice additive to your lunchbox. So what I do is I have a lot of fresh fruit that's available, but that goes quick. And sometimes I can't always get back to the store to replace that. So what I call my hurricane supply, it's probably not a funny joke right now, but a hurricane supply of like extra fruit. So those would be the applesauces or the fruit in a little cup, that if I don't have something fresh, I can throw those in their lunch boxes, and that way they can see, there's a fruit or vegetable in there as well. So when I am picking the applesauce or the fruit cup, the applesauce is 100% fruit. There is no high fructose corn syrup added to it. There is no sugar or extra honey added to it. It is just the fruit. And that goes the same thing for the little individual cups of fruit that are in juice. I try to make sure that I get the ones that are in juice, as opposed to the ones that are in a syrup or a high fructose corn syrup or something that's adding the extra sugar to it. So keep those on hand just in case you don't have the fresh options available. Is there a question? No? Okay.
Julie,
Yes.
what about when you say nut butters? Is Pro B2?
PB2?
Yeah.
So yes, that is pretty much just a powdered form of a nut. If your child can wants to add that, sometimes people add that to like a smoothie type thing. But if they're, I don't know what they would be able to do with that at school because it's a powder, a powder. I don't think they could dip it, but it is fine because it's just pretty much a dehydrated nut. So it's got a lot of fat and protein in it too, and you just have to find a way to make it work in the meal.
But I take a teaspoon of syrup, mix it up together. So it's a dip for, and instead of the water, I use that instead of it. And it's a sweet thing.
Okay.
And it's a sugar-free syrup. So they get the sweetness without all the sugar.
That's a great idea. And do you dip with anything or you just eat it by the spoon?
Yeah, the little like graham crackers or something like that. Or
that's perfect.
That's what.
So again, anytime that you're adding that fat and protein to a meal, you feel fuller faster. So a lot of times people get very nervous about, I don't want to have the calories from a nut butter, or I don't want to add the calories from the fat. But that fat is making such a difference in your fullness that it makes it worth those extra calories. So here's a perfect example. If you were eating the graham crackers just by themselves, you would eat twice as many graham crackers than you would if you were eating the graham crackers with the nut butter, because it makes you feel fuller, right? So it makes sense that you use your calories kind of appropriately. And that's the same thing with kids. When you're sending them with a bunch of stuff that's not filling and satisfying, they're going to come home hungry. They're going to ask for food all day long. I need another snack. Because they're not satisfied. And that's typical of kids because they eat such snacky foods as opposed to meal type foods.
And I find that's a good society.
Sustainable.
Yeah, it sustains you. You know what I'm saying? It satisfies you. It gets your sugar going, a little bit, and it's not too much. It's the society of it.
No, you're absolutely right. You want to eat foods that satisfy you. I mean, there's times we eat foods just for fun, but there's a lot of times that you want to feel a benefit from the foods that you eat, especially kids who don't understand how to explain that. I just ate this meal, but I'm still hungry. And you're going, no way, they can't be. But if there's not fat and protein in there, they really might just be hungry. You think of a typical kid's meal, it doesn't contain a lot of protein. And so that's why they usually are wanting something kind of extra. Okay, so when I roll back to a kid's lunchbox, I can't tell you how often in a kid's lunchbox I see chocolate milk, Gatorade, sodas, juice, Capri Suns. It's not that those foods aren't okay every now and then, those beverages, but for the most part of it, every single day in their lunchbox, try to send whatever milk product they consume without the sugar or a water. If they want to have those kind of things, that's separate and a different time. But when you're thinking about an everyday lunch to school, I would encourage water or whatever.
Yeah, watch that show. Turn it off.
What's that? Oh. Okay. So just watching the sugar beverages as well in the kids' lunchbox, adults as well. I try to tell people all the time, if you are thirsty, it needs to be water. You should never try to quench your thirst with a soda or a juice, because a lot of times that's a treat. You're not going to quench a thirst with that. You're just going to give yourself a treat. So just remember that water is for when you're thirsty for sure. Okay, and because I'm very realistic and I'm also a mom and I understand they want to see something enjoyable in their lunchbox. We call this a sometimes food. So what I teach my kids is we've got everyday growing foods, foods that make you healthy, that you want to make sure you're eating every single day. And then we've got sometimes foods. These are the foods that we don't eat every single day, but we eat them sometimes. And when we do eat them, it's okay. We enjoy them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just not something we eat every single day. So in their lunchbox, depending on if your child is, if it's appropriate for your child, some children who are overweight are eating lots and lots of sugar when they come home. They may not need a sometimes food in their lunchbox. They may just need their everyday lunchbox. But if it makes them happy, and if it's just that one little thing, include a sometimes food in their lunchbox if you've got all this other healthy options. So some particular sometimes foods, gummies, they always ask for gummies. Those are definitely sometimes foods. A little treat, maybe like the fun size treat. Animal crackers, chips, popcorn, those are things that aren't necessarily providing them benefit, but they're fun. And so if you make that just a very small amount of their wonderfully prepared healthy meal, and that small a bit, it's not going to make that big of a deal. It does make them happy, and it kind of gives them something to look forward to. So that would be an education part right there, just on those basics. All right, I want you to make sure that you eat your protein first. Your protein today is going to be these meatballs I made for you. Your carbohydrates would be your Triscuits, and then you got your grapes, and then I put in there a small Reese's because that's your sometimes food. So make sure you eat all your other stuff first, and then you can have your sometimes food. And that way it's just an education for those kids as well. Okay? Any questions there?
Nope. Yes.
Yes.
I do have a question. You talked about the gummies. Are any of those what you would call healthy, like the fruit snacks that are made with real fruit, like the Mott's, the Welch's? Are any of those more healthy than others?
Okay, good question, because it's very common. So if your kids are into gummies, there certainly are better options available. They do have the ones that are 100% fruit juice as opposed to the added sugar in whatever way they're adding it, whether it's honey or cane syrup or fructose corn syrup. So look for ones that are 100% fruit, but that is still a sometimes food because it's not going to add any kind of nutrients to them. It's pretty much just kind of an empty calorie because it's not giving any fiber. It's not giving any very little nutrients. So I would still count all gummies, even if they're really healthy ones, as sometimes food. And they have those fruit leathers right now. Again, kind of a good idea, especially if your kids like that kind of thing, but they're not necessarily as healthy as fresh fruit. But I understand how they love those gummies.
Yes.
For sure. My kids beg for those. All right. So we'll move on. Let's see. All right. A few tips for success, just things that I've noticed over the years, things that I've noticed with my own kids. If, like I said before, if you make being healthy a priority, you find a way to make it work. When something is important to you as a parent or individually to yourself, you find a way to set it as a priority. Now, it may not be your top priority. And that's the reason sometimes we make excuses when it's not your top priority. You may find that I didn't get that done. I didn't get to the store because something else was your priority. And that's okay. That's normal. That happens. But when health becomes your priority, you do find ways to make it work. And like I said earlier in the beginning, when I'm sending, especially as a dietitian, my kids have, they think anything I give them is healthy, even when I'm trying to let them splurge and enjoy a sometimes food. They Mom gave it to me. It must be healthy. So when you're making their lunch, just remember that you are setting an example for them. Mom made this lunch. Grandma made this lunch because I love you and I want you to be healthy and I want you to eat good foods that give you nutrition and make you feel good. You're kind of setting an example there. When you're giving them a bunch of junk and you're saying, all right, just do what you can. I hope you enjoy it. To them, it's teaching them that these foods are okay. Mom said it was okay. I'm going to do them more frequently, kind of thing. So just plan ahead, whether that is going to the grocery store, whether it's making a list, whatever it is, to make sure that you are having the options that you need available to you. I find making a list of some of the standard stuff that I know I'm going to buy every single week at the grocery store helps me a lot instead of being impulsive. When I don't have a plan, I kind of panic, and then we all eat Lunchables. Okay, so make sure you're having that conversation with them about everyday lunches, everyday foods, and sometimes foods. This goes for adults too. If you were to evaluate your meal, how much of that meal is everyday growing foods, foods that are healthy for you, providing you with benefit, and what percentage of those foods are just kind of junk and just kind of extra calories? When you start looking at your plate like that, you'll go, wow, I surely am eating a lot of extra things that I don't necessarily need to eat. So educating your kids about their lunchbox. This is very important to me, that if I were at work that morning and I wasn't able to do a lunchbox for them, would they know the basics of what to put in there? Most of my kiddos would. Some are still in training, but most of them would try to do the things that I talked to you about earlier and make sure that they have those options available. Give them foods that provide fuel. And this is a conversation with kids. It's a conversation with adults. Eat foods that make you feel good, that wake you up, that give you energy, that make your brain work, that make your tummy full. Eat these foods that are going to benefit you. They've gotten to where a lot of teachers don't even want these kids bringing junk to school and eating it during the day because it makes them tired. It makes them want to take a nap. And they'll, you got that 12 o'clock lunch, and all of a sudden the kids are wanting to take a nap at 1:30 because they've eaten nothing but sugar and they're crashing and burning after lunch. So try to make sure that you're getting foods that make you feel good. If you're working at home, you want to eat foods that bring you up and give you energy, that don't make you tired. You shouldn't want to curl up and take a nap after lunch. You should feel motivated and rejuvenated and full of energy with the foods that you've eaten. All right, so get the children involved. If they're making a lunch, if it's their lunch, talk to them. What would you like? What can I put in your lunch that will make you happy today? What's healthy? What's the healthiest thing in your lunchbox? Which of these do you eat first? On Sunday, you might tell me some things that you like in your lunchbox this week. Did you like that last week? When your kids get in the car after school, there's some key questions that I always ask them. Some are about being kind and being a leader, and then some are about, tell me what you ate today. And every time they'll go, Mom, because you made my lunch. And I know what was in their lunchbox, but I want to hear them say what they ate, and I want them to have some sort of acknowledgement of what they're eating, because they are in the cafeteria, they're eating fast, they're talking. A lot of times they're not even aware that they've consumed food because it's so interactive. So that's a parent tip for you, and that's a tip for you as an adult as well. Be aware of what you're eating. Be involved in the planning and the conversation, and create awareness, whether that's a conversation with the kid about what they ate, or did you like that? Did you not like that? Or if it's on your own of you saying, all right, I didn't realize I just ate the whole bag of chips because I was sitting here working. I'm going to be more aware and I'm going to be more involved. Obviously make it fun. Whatever fun is fun for you, that your kids enjoy it, so they're looking forward to their lunchbox, that it's not a boring, oh, Mom made my lunch again, it's going to be terrible. You want them to have some enjoyment with it. If you are prepping in advance, if you are one of those people that likes to do kind of a food prep type thing, it works well to get the small containers, wash the fruits and vegetables in advance. That way you're just kind of grabbing them throughout the week and putting them in the lunchbox. It makes it quick. And I promise you this, if it is set up in the refrigerator and looks really nice, almost like a grocery store with different colors and different fruits and vegetables, you're going to eat them. Your kids are going to eat them. It makes a difference as opposed to just kind of grabbing them last minute and washing them and eating them. When it's set up beautiful for your kids, they will come home from school, they will grab it with ease, and they will look forward to eating it.
Good.
All right, the last one is to rotate your options. So sometimes you can get yourself so anxious about, I got to make sure I have 15 different meals to rotate. Pick a handful. So pick 4 or 5 lunch options for yourself or your kids that work, that you've put it together, they're going to eat most of it, they have time to eat it, it's healthy, and rotate those lunches. So you think if you had 5 different lunches and they had one a week, they're not going to get it again until next week. They're not going to get tired of it. It's not like having the same thing over and over. So working on, if you can rotate so that you have different options, then it makes you have something available to them, and helps you with your shopping list as well. So it gives you some list that you go to, you need to get this, this, and this, so that you have a complete lunch every day. All right, so with those tips kind of in mind, focusing a lot on the kids, I will kind of open it up to what you want to talk about in general, because I know some of you may have questions about adult lunches or kid snacks or something like that. So I will kind of unmute most of you. If you have a question, just let me know. I'm happy to address that.
How about healthy snacks for adults?
Okay. So the same guideline for adults that I talked about with the kids. You want to make sure that you're having a carb and a protein together. So those two together will make you feel full. So an example would be an apple and peanut butter. Or like the Greek yogurts with some nuts, or a slice of cheese with a piece of fruit. Like those kind of combinations together make you feel fuller, as opposed to just eating something for an empty calorie and then not feeling satisfied.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have an 11-year-old grandson.
Okay.
Who's in a size medium for men. So my mother is really concerned about him always wanting to eat. So I was wondering what kind of things he could have that would really fill him up.
Sure.
I did hear some of them, but I'm going to write them down.
Okay, so you got to remember with kids, we don't want to be restrictive because they are growing. So kids are developing and growing, and he sounds like he's already a big kid. So I'm sure he is hungry probably because he's growing. And so you don't want to be restrictive of what they're eating. You just want to make sure that the calories that they're consuming are healthy calories. So what I would do in that situation is provide him with filling, satisfying food. So remember what we talked about. Chicken is much more satisfying and filling than a potato. Meatballs are much more satisfying than pasta. So you want to make sure that you're doing those proteins. If he eats vegetables, we're going to win because vegetables are filling, but they're not high calories either. So if you were to kind of build a plate for him, I would think about doing good, healthy proteins, a lot of the vegetables if he likes them, and then some balance out some of those carbohydrates. But if he gets finished eating and he's still very, very hungry, he might need to go back for some of those filling foods that we talked about, the proteins and that sort of thing, some healthy fats. That way he gets finished eating, he's satisfied, and he's not going back for stuff that's never going to make him feel full, but just adding calories and making him gain.
Okay, I think he's even more stressed since the pandemic. He's been eating more.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
That's common. They're not moving as much. We're home more. We're definitely not eating like we normally were when we were in more of a routine and a structure. Now we're just kind of a free-for-all. So many people have gained weight since the pandemic because we're home and we're stressed, and that's the way we handle things. So it's our job as parents, especially and grandparents, during this time to say, hey, let's grab something that's filling and satisfying and going to help you grow and give you energy, as opposed to just kind of sitting around. My kids did it too. My kids, I joked so much because they were, I need a snack. And they were constantly wanting something because they were kind of just bored. Mm-hmm. And so we had to come up with some sort of snack system in our house because it was just nonstop. And it is. And y'all aren't the only ones. A lot of people were going through that this time of year, unfortunately. But hopefully now that we're back in a little bit of a structure and routine, kids can kind of start, and adults as well, can get back into their habits of eating well and taking care of themselves.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. What other questions y'all have?
Julie.
Yes.
I am a very sweet eater, and so I use fruit a lot.
Okay.
Oh, there is a point where you can overdo fruit.
Right.
So what I put with the fruit that will fill me up and not make me eat the whole pineapple or the whole watermelon or.
Okay. So again, kind of what we talked about, you tell me, if you're eating pineapple, what could you put with it to make you feel full?
I have no idea. I ate the whole thing. And grapes, gosh, they're so good right now.
No, they're so good. Okay. So let's say that if you had a cup of pineapple, you're right. It's not very filling. So you keep kind of going back for more and more pineapple. And before you know it, you've eaten 2 cups of pineapple, 3 cups of pineapple, the whole thing's gone. If you took your cup of pineapple and say had it with 10 almonds, you're going to feel fuller than having 2 cups of pineapple. Does that make sense? So when you pair it up with that protein, like we talked about, it does make you feel fuller and satisfied. And that way you're not overdoing the fruit, because it is. People think it's kind of innocent, but fruit, you're right, has sugar in it, natural sugar, and it can make you gain too much weight if you're eating too much of it. So pair it up with the right thing. Don't be afraid of it. Just eat it in the right portions with the right combinations.
Okay, thank you.
Another one with the pineapple is cottage cheese. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I'm not eating cottage cheese, never. Ever.
that one usually doesn't go over well. But pineapple and cottage cheese is one of my favorite snacks because it just goes perfect together.
You know what I like to do with fruit is to have cheese, like you're talking about cottage cheese, but the Baby Bell, the little individual ones. And it's, you know, I know that's my friend Cynthia talking. I know that they're only 1 point on Weight Watchers. So, you know, the one piece of cheese and the fruit together is a good snack for me.
It totally is, because you've got some fullness in there, something that's making you full and satisfied. And it's worth the point or the calories because it is giving you benefit. And that's the same thing with kids. If they're coming home from school and they're grabbing a pack of goldfish, they're going to be hungry. They're going to ask for another snack. If you come home and you stand in your pantry and you're just eating wheat thins or something that's a lower calorie type thing, and you're eating them and eating them and eating them because you're never feeling full. It's a trick. You got to find a good balance of calories in with beneficial calories as well.
Yeah. My problem is I have teenagers and they just want to eat junk all day and they don't want to sit down and have the healthy lunch. You know, with the pandemic, it's been kind of, like you said, crazy where, you know, we're out of our routine. So they're not eating at school, they're eating at home, and they're just going to the pantry and grabbing whatever's easy, whatever's there. And I keep trying to tell them, you know, you got to eat some protein. You got to eat something that's going to fill you up.
Right. You're right. You're going the right direction with your education. Or by any chance they play sports?
Yeah, one does karate. The other one does flag team. So she's not been able to do a whole lot.
Well, that's always an edge with teenagers is, okay, it gives you energy for sports. It helps you, you have energy for karate. It helps your boys, helps your muscles grow. Girls, you always say it makes your skin and hair pretty. So those are the kind of things with like teenagers, just kind of learning the education. All you can do as an adult and parent, provide the education and support, and then make sure that they have good options at home. So no, do they want to hear you nag all the time? Make sure you get this, make sure you get that. But when you're leading by example, you have healthy options in their house, it makes them want to start grabbing these things when the education is there. So simply saying, hey, if you put a few nuts with that, it'll give you good energy for karate, or it's good for your nails when you eat extra cheese or something like those along those lines. It does make them want to do better.
Good tips. Thank you.
What was that?
I said good tips. Thank you. Because I'm kind of at my wit's end right now as far as, you know, trying to get them to eat healthy.
So look, make a list with them, sit them down. I know they're teenagers and it probably seems so elementary with them, but sit them down and say, all right, what are some snacks? Let's have a lot of everyday snacks, and we'll have some sometimes snacks too, but what do you want on your list this week? What is appealing to you that you'll eat? What fruit, what vegetable, what meal? Tell me. And you can toot their little horn and say, I know you're a teenager and you're growing and there's not everything that you like, but help me develop. I need your help developing some ideas, and really just make it their idea and see if that gets them a little bit more involved. Thank you all for joining us. I know we kind of hit some different topics and maybe not exactly what you were expecting, but I like to try to talk about different things based on what the crowd needs, and I'm usually pretty flexible like that. So thank you for sitting with me as I kind of went through different transitions of wellness, but I certainly hope to see y'all again next time we do this.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.